Moving words, and indeed they have been our first two speakers, and I'm sure they will continue. Bob Phillips is our next speaker. Bob was a former General Manager of the Education Department and previously worked throughout Tasmania as a school principal, school superintendent and state curriculum manager. He has been involved in significant community partnerships at primary school level and in partnerships with the University of Tasmania addressing teacher training. He has a big picture perspective of international education and of systems theory with his PhD studies. Bob was a former Hardy Fellowship holder and is currently an education consultant. Please welcome Bob Phillips to the mic.
I think it's a fascinating book in that other people have said that it explores the history of Tasmania from its geological and biological history through to human occupation and the history of the ideas that have influenced our culture and community. And I think from that point of view it's a fascinating enterprise, and it's just such a great credit to you, Shannon, how you've brought many of those themes together. I think for me it's the pleasure of engaging and re-engaging with ideas that cause me to think about things again. And as I reflected on Shannon's book, I thought of T.S. Eliot's Little Gidding prose, where he said, at the end of all our exploration, we will arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. And I really do think that that's at the nub of this book. Shannon takes a whole host of ideas that we've all perhaps considered from time to time in different settings, but he holds them up to us and invites us to reconsider our position for the first time and know our place for the first time. He holds up our past to us and lets us know Tasmania again, or at least in a new way. When Shannon asked me to read the draft, it was a great honour for me to be able to comment on his writing, and it was again a great honour to be asked to speak about his book at tonight's launch. But when I read the draft, there were a couple of points that really hit me hard in terms of knowing this place again from a different perspective. And one of them was his chapter on the war against the Aboriginal people of our state, and his account of the extent of the massacres was something that, while I knew of them, I didn't know the extent. And one of the themes that comes through the book is that until we recognise and reconcile with our past, that we can't move on, and that there are things that we need to address if we are to be the community that we wish to be. So he holds up our dark past to us. He says we need to acknowledge that past, and we need to address that before we can reconcile. He holds up a choice to us towards the end of the book to say, well, we can be a nation of haves and have-nots, or we can be an ethical nation. We can be a nation that wishes to be equitable, to be inclusive, to be connected, and I think that it's a point that's so worth making and so worth reflecting upon, and I thank you for bringing that together in such a coherent way in the book, Shannon. And of course, Shannon being Shannon, his last chapter is a celebration of life, and it's titled, Have You Ever Really Served? And in all of the interaction with what makes us as a community or what makes our culture, Shannon holds up our lives and says, but we can choose. We have choices about what we do. We can choose to be a celebration, to have a celebration of life, to be vibrant and excited and connected with our land. And it's a sort of a very yee-haw type of experience and chapter where he's just saying, inviting us to connect with our community and culture in such a rich and deep way. I wanted to thank you, Shannon, for writing the book. I wanted to thank you for inviting me to participate in reviewing your book. It has been such a pleasure. I should finish with the little Giddings piece. because a little further on in the Little Giddings prose, it says, to not know because we're not looked for, but heard, half heard in the stillness between two waves in the sea. And he's talking about the reflection of the peace in the space between the waves, where we really consider deeply some of that which is a part of our life and experience. Congratulations.